Hello and welcome to Chess Please. My name is Andy and today I wanted to start off a new series where we tackle beginner questions submitted to the channel to help people out who are just getting to know the game or who have any questions left unanswered by any resources that they've been able to find so far. We want to cover these off in a nice, friendly, approachable way. So I wanted to give an open call for any beginner questions you had, any chess-based questions, whether it's about the game itself, a specific opening, mentality elements of the game, hobby elements of the game, anything and everything that you wanted to ask about chess. I would love to tackle those questions, so feel free to submit those in the comments, and we'll make our way through them. We'll do a bit of a mailbag on that, and I think we'll have a very good time. And our inaugural question comes from a friend of the show, Rory Fitzpatrick, who, off the back of our How to Play Chess video that we published recently, has gotten into chess. So we have another convert in our ranks, another chess player in the making. And Rory sent in this very, very interesting position, along with the question, when you are up a lot of material, he finds himself having quite a mental block of how do you actually win the game? You're in the very pleasant position of being up a ton of material. How do you actually go and convert? So let's take a quicker look at this position here. Rory is playing as the white pieces. He has the black king in check. He's got an extra bishop. He's got a pawn back here on his home square. And I think the one wrinkle here, or there's a few wrinkles here. One wrinkle here is that black has a pawn that is about to promote. And that could change the whole temperature of the game. So it's not a very easy position to win. And I think it can be something that is very frustrating, particularly when your clock is ticking down low, that you have all this material, you know you're winning, but like, how do you actually bring this game to a close? So that's what we're going to focus on today. Before we do that, I wanted to jump into the computer solution to this, because just to highlight that sometimes the computer analysis can be really annoying because it's playing at a computer level. It's not going to make mistakes, and it's going to find these crazy resources, because there is actually a checkmate in 5 here, and I was staring at this for the longest time thinking what the checkmate in 5 is, and we'll show it on the board here because it's pretty wild. But king down here is the only move, so that's the first move in the sequence, because king has literally no other move, can't move up here, here, or here, so it's got to go or here, so it's got to go here. The next move is bishop c5 check, again cutting off the king to only one move. King has to move in here to b, and you want to be careful of stalemates here, you want to be careful of letting them promote, so there's all sorts of different things. The next move is the bishop comes in with another check. And again, the reason for this, I was kind of like, oh, well, then the king just jumps back here. That seems a little weird. And the king does jump back here. And then this is a move that, like, no beginner is finding this. I didn't find this move. This was wild. Queen b5. A waiting move while your opponent is about to promote this pawn. So, again, literally, the king has no squares to go to. So the only move you have is to promote. And you're going to promote your queen if you're black. And that's why you've put the bishop here on d4 to take that queen. And again, king only has one move, is to move closer to the bishop so that you can checkmate here with the queen. Like, that's a very complicated mating pattern. And maybe you're sitting at home being like, it's not that complicated. Yeah, it is. It's really weird that you let them promote and you play two waiting moves, or you play a waiting move. There's like two zugzwang moments where you're kind of waiting for the king to move. So that's crazy. Don't try to win like that. Like, obviously it's lovely if you were able to calculate all that, but like, no beginner, no intermediate, and few enough advanced players, I would never bother to calculate all that. The way that I would win is maybe a little bit controversial, but I do genuinely believe that this is the easiest way to win. I would see that we have this pawn in a heap of open air that has a very clear run towards promoting, and I see that we have this king who can be invaluable in shepherding away this king if he ever tries to stop this pawn from promoting. So a very simple and like programmatic way that we can win this is we actually just get rid of any threat, any lingering threat they have, by capturing the pawn with our queen, allowing the king to take our queen, sacrificing our queen, safe in the knowledge that a simple king move like this just clears the road for this pawn to promote. So let's even put that on the board. Let's see how the king gets on with his chase. So he comes, the pawn can move 2 for its first move. Bada booey. King is just trying to chase it down, but it has limited enough squares because the king is boxing him out of all of these squares. So trying to get here without being able to take a shortcut through this square is very, very difficult. So the pawn is going to comfortably promote. The pawn is going to promote, and with several moves to spare, because the king is there to shoulder him. But now we're in the same position. We have an overwhelming material advantage, and yet, how do we win this game? So what I wanted to show is how we win this with just a king and a queen. So let's even sweeten the deal here for black. We'll make a couple of folly moves here. Let's just go here, for example. So king takes the bishop there. So now we just have a king and a queen. And the reason I wanted to showcase this, because many endgames are going to shake down like this, where you have one pawn extra, you trade off all the pieces, you're able to fling that pawn up the board, get a queen, and you're left with a king and a queen versus a king. And you want to be able to do this in pretty short time as well. So having a very simple, methodical way of going about this is pretty useful to have as well. So the first thing you want to do with the king and the queen is you want to hem the king into the shortest side of the board possible. So eventually we're looking to get him onto one of these side or top ranks, so the edge of the board basically. And to do that, we want to box him into as close to the edge as possible, knowing that the queen can cover off a whole rank like this. So the easiest way to do this in this case is actually a long diagonal move down here to c1. So the king is boxed into these two ranks here. So there isn't that many places for him to go. So he's just going to wander around on this second rank, and we can very leisurely bring our king in here as well. And what you're looking for is this specific position here as well, where we have the kings facing each other, where there's one square in between them. Now the kings can never enter that square, they can never get too close. That is called kings in opposition. So white has just moved the black king into opposition, so he wants to get out of that pretty quickly. When your king is defending one of the squares in front of the other king, then you can take the time to bring the queen right into his grill, because that is going to force him back another rank. So let's say, for example, he can either go here or here. Again, probably wants to stay on the open side of the board, so we go like this. And we just repeat the procedure. We just do the same again. We cut the king off to as small a rank as possible. And once we have the king hemmed in on this back rank here, as well as nowhere for him to go, he wants to wander up here. We just bring the king close, and anytime the king is defending any of the squares in front of the opposition king, you can just come in here and checkmate right into his grill. So that is the simplest way. Hem the king in with your queen to as few amount of ranks as possible. Mosey your king on over so that they're kind of almost in opposition. Bring your queen into the king's grill to bump him back, and just repeat ad nauseum until eventually the king has nowhere to bump back to, and you checkmate. So amazingly, that is how I would win this position. And that seems like, oh, maybe I'm simplifying this. It's not. That's how I would do it. I would take this pawn, I would move the king here, promote to a queen, and hem the king in with the queen. And that does take practice, and sometimes you're going to mess up and maybe cause a stalemate if you just haven't left the king enough squares to go to. But that is how I would recommend winning this game, and that is how I would recommend winning a lot of games where you're up material, is just simplify. Get the pieces off the board, knowing that you have pawns that can promote, getting those pawns home, making some extra queens on an empty board, and then just getting those reps in of checkmating with a king and a queen. Again, seems oversimplified or very specific in this case, but I don't think so. I think in many cases, if you're way up on material, it might be a good idea to give up some of that material for whatever remaining threats or potential threats your opponent has, knowing that you can replenish your stocks if you have one of these passed pawns, in particular if you have a king that can shepherd it home, or maybe the pawn was like deeper into the territory and you know that black isn't going to be able to stop that. So trade off the pieces, promote another pawn, win with a queen and a king. That is my advice for winning when you are overwhelmingly winning. And that is going to be all from me today, folks. I hope you learned something here. And again, an open call out to any and all questions that you had on the chess realm in any ambit of chess. I am happy to tackle those and give my 2 cents, hopefully in a way that is concrete and instructive for you. Thanks very much. Feel free to subscribe and stick around for more chess content. And most of all, enjoy your chess. Thanks very much.